So guys, before we get started with today's show, let me give you a brief overview of what PathMonk is all about before we jumping into the show. PathMonk is the intelligent tool for website lead generation. With increasing online competition, more than 98% of all website visitors do not convert. So your ability to successfully show your value proposition and support visitors in their buying journey separates you from the competition. So PathMonk qualifies and converts leads on your website by figuring out where people are in the buyer's journey and influencing them in key decision moments with relevant micro experiences, like case studies, introduction videos, and much more. So stay relevant to your visitors and increase conversions by plus 50%. Add PathMonk to your page in seconds, let the artificial intelligence do all the work, and get access to 50% more qualified leads while you keep doing marketing the same as always. Check it out on PathMonk.com. In today's episode of the PathMonk Presents podcast, I got a very interesting guest here with me today. I'm with Dana Goldfinger, and she's heading over from the folks over at Manifest Climate. Manifest Climate is a software to supercharge your climate strategy. Of course, that's just a high-level overview of all the great things that Manifest Climate does. So we want to deep dive into that today, what it's all about and how the team is thinking about growth, and of course, learning a little bit about Dana herself as well. So welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, sure. No worries. So maybe give people like a little overview. What is Manifest Climate all about in your own words?
Absolutely. So Manifest Climate is really a software to help companies accelerate their climate strategies. And we do that in a number of ways. The first is that we help companies identify their climate-related risks and financial risks and opportunities. So we really help companies figure out what their financial climate-related opportunities and risks are. And then the next part of that is aligning companies' climate reporting with global disclosure frameworks and standards. So that includes the ISSB, the TCFD, and also regulations out of the US, Canada, and UK as well. The next part is that we provide competitive benchmarking, so companies can compare and assess how they're doing on their climate progress next to industry peers and climate leaders. And then finally, we provide companies with a clear climate roadmap so that they have data-driven next steps to take in their climate journeys.
I see. That makes a lot of sense. Now, what would you say benefits most? Like, how would you describe the organizations that would be a great fit for Manifest Climate?
Yeah, so the organizations that would be a great fit, it's really companies that are trying to figure out what their climate-related financial risks and opportunities are, and companies that are at all stages of their climate journeys. And that's usually ends up being public companies, as most of these companies are being requested by regulators and investors for their financial information as it relates to climate change. And yeah, that's really who would be of most interest for our product.
Makes sense. And who would you say would be sort of the champion? Like, who has the foresight in those organizations to basically, drive things forward?
Yeah, so the champion of Manifest Climate is usually a member of company sustainability or ESG teams. We really help those teams optimize their output, and we help them focus more on action, execution, and strategy as opposed to research and planning. So our software can really help those teams optimize themselves and position their companies as climate leaders.
Gotcha. That makes a whole lot of sense. Now, how do these guys learn about Manifest? Like, how would you describe the journey? What would be the channels that they work through in order to get to know you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a lot of different channels that companies can access us through. First and foremost is our content. We really try to position our content as educational, but then we also have a mix of other content that's more focused on our product and software so that companies can get a thorough journey into that as well, whether they're just starting to learn about climate or whether they're ready to invest in a software that's really going to help optimize their climate management and climate disclosure. So our avenues are mostly through webinars and white papers. Those are some of our main content avenues. We also have a weekly newsletter that goes out to prospects. And in addition to that, we have blogs that focus more on educational content, or we also focus more on product-themed content. And then we have some external facing content as well, external publications with external publications. So that can include sponsored content. It can include more ads. And then finally, there's events and social media. And that's headed by our marketing coordinator, Megan McIntosh.
Very cool. Now, what role do you think the website plays in the journey? How do you think about that?
I think the website plays a core role in the prospect and customer's journey. It is the first avenue where people can see the message of our software and of our product and what our product does. It's where people can start to learn more and become educated about climate and corporate climate resilience, disclosure, and management. And then we have the website take prospects all throughout their journey, so they can learn more about the product as well and also request a demo. And it's a really important asset for that.
Mm-hmm. Now, I mean, what I like to ask marketers actually is sort of, talking about the strengths and sort of the room for improvement for the website. So where do you see sort of a major strength of the website versus where do you see maybe room for further development?
That's a great question. I think we're really strong at providing a lot of really robust resources when it comes to climate. We have a very thorough resources section on our website where prospects can go and research everything they need to know on climate and climate management. One thing that I think we could maybe improve is linking those pieces of content to one another. So yeah, if someone's looking at a more educational piece of content, relating that more to product-focused content, that type of thing, that is something I think that we could improve as well.
Gotcha. Very cool. I would like to switch gears a little bit and talk a little bit about yourself and your role. Like, how would you describe maybe sort of like a typical day of yours? Like, what would be sort of the work streams, the types of projects that you would involve in? Maybe you can give listeners a little bit of an insight.
Absolutely. Well, as it happens at most B2B startups, no day is ever the same. But generally, my role ends up creating content, managing different content projects. So that's dealing with a lot of vendors and freelancers and making sure all of those pieces come together, whether it's our podcast, Climate Compass, webinars, white papers, blogs, all of the content that we do with external publications. Just making sure all that comes together, doing some of the creation for some of that as well. And just project managing all of that.
Very cool. Now, as we're slowly approaching the end of the interview, I'd have some rapid fire questions to get to know you and your journey a little bit better. Are you ready for those?
Yeah, let's do it.
What would be the last book that you've read?
The last book that I read was Educated by Tara Westover. And it's a memoir about by this woman who grew up in an isolated community in the U.S. And she kind of did everything she could to break out of that and gain an education. So it's really interesting and engaging book.
What is one single thing that your company is focused on the most at the moment?
One thing we're focused on right now is scaling corporate climate resilience and competence globally. So we're doing everything that we can to scale to help businesses prepare for the climate transformation.
If there would be no boundaries in tech, what would be the one thing that you would want to have fixed for your role as a marketer? A magic wand, what's the one thing you would fix for your role?
Great question. I think the one thing I would fix is just having more granular metrics on the prospect's journey. I'd love to see if they read a blog, if they come back to the site, if they listen to a podcast. Would just love to get more information on that. That would be super helpful.
Very cool. And for the very last question, if today would be your first day joining Manifest Climate, what would be the one advice that you give yourself for that journey?
I would say don't be afraid to try new things.
Very, very cool. And I really appreciate you took the time with us today to be a guest on PathMonk Presents. I want to give you the very last word. If somebody will be forgetting all that we discussed about manifest climate, like what's the one thing that people should definitely remember?
The one thing people would remember is our mission, which I had mentioned, is to scale corporate climate resilience and competence globally. We're here to help companies at all stages of their climate journeys, and we're here to help them with their climate disclosure and management. So if companies are unsure where to begin or how to get started, they should reach out to Manifest Climate and visit us at manifestclimate.com.
Thanks a lot for being a guest on PathMonk Presents.
Thanks for having me.